A elderly couple from downstairs knocked on my door and said they wanted to give me their house, and Xiao tightly gripped my hand and said tearfully, "We have only one condition, you be our goddaughter, take care of us in our old age, and see us through to the end. After we pass away, this house will be yours. Will you do it?" In my previous life, I was overwhelmed by this sudden good fortune. Seeing their pitiful appearance, I hesitated only for a moment before agreeing with red eyes, but after the elderly couple passed away, their long-absent children suddenly appeared, accusing me of associating with them solely for the house. They even produced a will that the couple had written long ago. The will they presented did not match the handwriting of the will left to me by the elderly couple. After authentication, my will was deemed legally invalid, and I became a fraud everyone despised. I was subjected to online harassment, lost my job, and was eventually pushed onto the railway tracks by an enraged crowd, dying as a result. So I shook my head and said, "I can't help you with this, you'd better find someone else." Hearing this, Aunt Zhao's eyes widened with disbelief, and her voice suddenly rose. "What did you say? This is a godsend opportunity, and you're not willing to take it. Are you stupid?" I said, "I'm not willing." I didn't feel like arguing with her any further, and reached out to grab the doorknob, intending to quickly shut these troublesome people out, but in the next second, Aunt Zhao suddenly dropped to her knees with a thud, clutching my legs with both hands, her voice trembling as she said, "Xiaoying, we've been neighbors for so many years. Auntie knows you're kind-hearted. Everyone outside wants our money. We don't trust anyone, but we only trust you. Auntie, please, have mercy on us old people and give us a way to survive." Seeing this, Uncle Li also stiffened his neck and knelt down, saying, "If you don't agree, we won't get up today." I frowned as I looked at the two people before me. In my past life, I brought them meals every day, took care of their household chores, and later, when they were bedridden, I personally handled their waste, bathed them, and changed their clothes. When Uncle Li had a heart attack, I carried him downstairs to the emergency room and stayed by his side for 3 days. When Uncle Li passed away, Aunt Zhao held my hand and said, "Don't worry about the house." But later, their children stormed into my workplace, violently dragged me out of my seat, tearing my clothes apart, and announced to everyone, "It's this woman, she always pretends to be kind, giving my parents a few fruits and vegetables, but once they're dead, she uses a fake will to try to take over their house." Some nosy colleague started a live stream, and soon the internet was in an uproar, all calling me a wolf in sheep's clothing and doxing me. Within a few days, I was called in for a meeting and fired. When I got home, I was found by a mob who had seen the doxing online. A crowd surrounded me, shouting and shoving. I don't know whose hand it was, but someone eventually pushed me onto the railway tracks. After devoting myself wholeheartedly for over a decade, I didn't get a good outcome. Thinking of this, I felt a chill run through my body. My tone grew harsher, and I forcefully pulled my hand free from Aunt Zhao's grip. Between neighbors, I can help with small favors, but taking care of someone in their old age and seeing them through to the end is a lifelong commitment. I'm busy with work and don't have the time or energy. You both should get up now." The elderly couple's lips trembled as they slowly helped each other to their feet. Aunt Zhao stared at me, her eyes no longer showing the earlier sincerity, only resentment. She spoke slowly and deliberately, "You've changed. You've become cold-hearted and unfeeling, with no sense of human kindness at all." Uncle Li stared at me coldly and said, "It's not that she's changed, it's that we were wrong about her. You can know a person's face, but not their heart." I didn't bother arguing with them. Without a word, I slammed the door shut, completely cutting off their curses. The moment the door closed, my tense body finally relaxed. In this life, I would never repeat the same mistakes again. I would live my life peacefully and steadily, too. The next day, on my way to work, I passed by the fruit shop at the entrance of the neighborhood. Aunt Zhao and Uncle Li were sitting with the shop owner, Aunt Zhang, having breakfast. The three of them were chatting and laughing, appearing very close. To anyone unaware of the truth, they would surely think they were a family. Sister Zhang is famously kind-hearted and easygoing. Seeing the elderly couple getting on in years, she occasionally lends a hand or sends over some seasonal fruit. But all these years, I've never seen the couple take the initiative to invite Sister Zhang for a meal, let alone act this close. It clicked instantly in my mind. I sneered inwardly, these two old foxes. Just last night they swore they trusted only me, and now they've turned to Sister Zhang, rejected by me. They must have immediately set their sights on soft-hearted Sister Zhang. The elderly couple, who usually greet me with beaming smiles and kindly expressions, now held their chins high, their eyes filled with condemnation and hostility, as if I had committed some unforgivable wrong and owed them millions. Seeing this, Sister Zhang looked a bit awkward but still mustered the courage to greet me. "Xiao Sun, heading to work," I responded with a faint smile, my gaze sweeping past the elderly couple without the usual greeting, my heart filled with anger. In my past life, I had given them my all, yet after just one refusal, they treated me with such hostility, not even bothering to maintain appearances. People like them, I wish I had never known. When I returned from work in the evening, I happened to run into Sister Zhang, who was carrying a heavy food container, sweating profusely and panting as she came back to tend the shop. I bought a bunch of grapes, and as I scanned the code to pay, Sister Zhang glanced around, making sure no one was nearby, then leaned in and whispered with a gossipy expression, "Xiao Sun, I heard from Aunt Zhao and Uncle Li that they wanted to give you their house in exchange for you taking care of them in their old age. And you refused." I nodded, my tone calm. "Yes." "Why?" Sister Zhang looked puzzled. "The houses in our area are worth millions each, so many people are fighting to get this opportunity." I smiled faintly and said, "I don't have the time or energy, nor can I take on this responsibility. By the way, Sister Zhang, did they approach you too? Did you agree?" Sister Zhang nodded sheepishly. "Yes. I just delivered lunch to them and brought some fresh fruit from the store to help them regain their strength. Honestly, taking care of the elderly is tiring, but what job isn't? The compensation is so high. And besides, we're old neighbors, they seem kind and gentle, not the type to cause trouble." So I agreed. "I only found out later that they came to you first, and you turned them down. I saw you two meet this morning without speaking. It was quite awkward. Don't take it to heart. Helping is a kindness, not helping is your right. You don't need to feel burdened, just greet them normally in the future." 3. I said bluntly, "I'm not awkward. I'm heartbroken. Last night, I turned them down, and Aunt Zhao called me cold-blooded and heartless, saying she'd misjudged me. This morning, when I passed by, they looked at me like I was an enemy. I'm not going to keep offering warmth to a cold face." Sister Zhang's eyes widened instantly, her face filled with shock. "How could this happen? Uncle Li told me they went to see you yesterday, humbling themselves and begging desperately, their attitude extremely humble, but you were extremely impatient, even called them useless old people no one wanted, and drove them away." Hearing this, I felt my blood boil. "Sister Zhang, we've been neighbors for so long, you know what kind of person I am. I've helped Aunt Zhao and Uncle Li many times in the past. Besides, if I refused, I refused. Why would I humiliate them? These two elders are just making things up, spreading lies and slandering me." Seeing this, Sister Zhang quickly reassured me. "I believe you. I knew you weren't that kind of person. There must be a misunderstanding." I waved my hand and said, "There's no misunderstanding, it's just a case of greed, like a snake trying to swallow an elephant. I've come to realize that kindness should be given to those who deserve it." I took a couple of steps out with the grapes, then stopped, thinking of my miserable fate in my previous life, and turned back to say, "Sister Zhang, you're a good person. If the two elderly people can keep their promise, then you'll have a good beginning and end. But people's hearts change easily. Why not make a legacy support agreement with them? That way, you'll have some security, and won't end up with nothing, working hard for nothing in the end." After hearing this, Sister Zhang's expression gradually turned serious, and she kept thanking him. "Thank you, Xiao Sun, you really reminded me. I should seriously think about this matter." As I walked away carrying the grapes, I saw Sister Zhang lost in thought. I reached the store entrance and was just pulling out my keys to unlock the electric bike when a sharp, bitter old voice pierced from behind, making my eardrums ache. "Oh, didn't you say you were too busy with work, too tired to take care of the elderly, yet you have the spare money to buy such expensive grapes to eat, so cold-hearted toward us old folks, yet so precious to yourself. How selfish you are." I turned around and saw Aunt Zhao and Uncle Li walking over slowly. Aunt Zhao stared intently at the grapes in my hand, her mouth twisted in jealousy and resentment. Uncle Li also chimed in with a sarcastic tone, "Young people spend money so recklessly, such fine grapes. After a lifetime of farming and scrimping and saving, we've never even dared to taste one, but you just buy them without a second thought, not caring at all about the cost." Their brazen audacity infuriated me, and I shot back sharply, "Stop with your moral blackmail. Sister Zhang just said she sent you a whole bunch of fruit. What, did you swallow it all and pretend it never happened? Now you're fixated on the grapes in my hand. Are you beggars or bandits?" For Aunt Zhao, who never expected the usually meek me to talk back, instantly lost her temper, shouting at the top of her lungs, "You little brat, how dare you speak to me like that? Where did I go wrong? It's just that you didn't get any benefit from our house, so you're holding a grudge and deliberately picking on us old people. I used to treat you like my own daughter, treating you so well, and you're just an ungrateful, heartless wolf," she cried while slapping her thighs in a tantrum, drawing passers-by and nearby neighbors to stop and gather around. I rubbed my aching ears, coldly watching her act. "I bullied you, I bought my own fruit and didn't share it with you, so that's bullying. Can't you be reasonable?" Uncle Lee pointed at my nose and shouted to the onlookers, "Everyone, take a look. This young man has no manners. He insulted an elder and called us dogs. How despicable." Sister Zhang heard the commotion and hurried out of the shop, looking troubled. "Aunt Xiao, Uncle Lee, Xiao's son, stop arguing, let's talk calmly. Xiao Zhang, stay out of this." Uncle Lee rudely blocked Sister Zhang. "From now on, you're not allowed to sell fruit to this heartless woman. She bullies us old people. She doesn't deserve your fruit." Sister Zhang looked utterly stunned, turning to me, "Xiao's son, what's going on? Why are you arguing so loudly?" I spread my hands, completely exasperated. "They wanted my grapes, I refused, and then they started making snide remarks, accusing me of insulting them. I never said anything out of line. I didn't even raise my voice. They're the ones being unreasonable." I mimicked the sharp, sarcastic tone of Aunt Xiao and Uncle Lee just now, and the neighbors watching immediately understood. Their gazes toward the two elders turned with a hint of disdain. Zhang Jie's face also turned unpleasant as she said to Aunt Xiao, "Aunt Xiao, didn't I just send you some fruit? If it's not enough, I can bring you more. There's no need to make such a fuss with Xiao's son. I was just worried that too much would go bad and attract flies in the house." Aunt Xiao got flustered. "Oh, don't listen to this little girl's nonsense. We just wanted to greet her as neighbors." But she immediately snapped at us. "She must be holding a grudge. Just now, when we saw her coming out of your shop, she must have been bad-mouthing us." More and more people gathered around to watch the commotion, and I felt annoyed, saying bad things about you. What bad things am I saying? Are you clairvoyant or have ears that can hear from miles away? How do you know I'm talking bad about you from so far away? You're the one slandering, you're the one who just blurts it out. Aunt Xiao's face flushed red with anger, her neck bulging. "If you weren't talking bad about us, why did you stay in the fruit shop for so long? We saw you go in from upstairs earlier, and you were still there when we came down. Does buying fruit really take that long?" Sister Zhang, feeling dizzy from the noise, shouted loudly, "Xiao's son just came to buy fruit." I was the one who pulled her aside to talk, hoping she could help with a notarization. 5. Aunt Xiao was confused. What kind of notarization? Sister Zhang hadn't actually thought it through yet, but since many people had gathered around to watch the commotion, including quite a few neighbors, she raised her voice and said, "Since everyone's here, it saves me the trouble of going around to find you all. Actually, there's nothing about this that can't be shared with everyone. We've already agreed before. I'll take care of you in your old age, and in return, your house will go to me. I want to set up a legacy support agreement and have everyone help me get it notarized by the notary office." Aunt Xiao was a bit flustered, looking at the people around her. "This is a private matter. How can it be brought up like this? And to have all the neighbors bear witness. How embarrassing." Uncle Yu, who was watching the commotion nearby, spoke up. "What's embarrassing about it? This is a good thing. We're all neighbors, and we all know you two have no children and are struggling to get by. Now it's great. Xiao Zhang is willing to take care of you in your old age. Your later years will be secure." Uncle Li glared. "What do you mean, no children? I have 3 daughters and 2 sons. The crowd erupted in surprise. Sister Zhang asked in shock. "You have children of your own, why didn't you tell me?" Uncle Li said with a righteous expression. "You never asked." Aunt Xiao, noticing Sister Zhang's face growing increasingly grim, quickly took her hand and said, "Those unfilial children have never cared whether we live or die. When we were sick and dying, they wouldn't even answer our calls. We stopped acknowledging them long ago. We only acknowledge you." Uncle Lee nodded. "That's exactly what I mean. They're practically non-existent. So why even bring them up? You've been good to us. So you're like our own daughter." Standing in the crowd, I sneered and spoke up. "Blood ties can't be severed. You say you don't acknowledge them now, but what happens after you pass away? If your biological children suddenly come forward to fight for the house, won't all of Sister Zhang's hard work over the years go to waste? Getting a notarization is a safeguard for Sister Zhang and doesn't cost you anything. why are you so resistant? What exactly are you plotting? You have no right to speak here, you filthy-hearted, troublemaking scum. Uncle Li, flushed with anger, cursed at me, spittle flying everywhere. Xiao's son is telling the truth. What right do you have to insult him? Kind-hearted Aunt Lu couldn't stand it any longer and stepped to my side, scolding Uncle Li. Xiao's son has always been so good to you all, don't you have any sense of that? He just reminded Sister Zhang of what's fair and just. How is that stirring up trouble? I looked at Aunt Lu gratefully, clutching my chest with a pitiful expression. No good deed goes unpunished. Aunt Lu, my heart, it aches. Aunt Lu immediately patted my hand sympathetically. Poor thing, dear, it's all right, Aunt Lu will stand up for you. She turned to the elderly couple and fired off like a firecracker. You two are just like those old folks who fell down years ago and no one helped them. You've received kindness from others but don't know how to be grateful. Isn't this just chilling the hearts of good people in society? I nodded repeatedly and gave Aunt Lu a thumbs up. With just one word from you, you've spoken my mind. Aunt Lu grew bolder with each word. Besides, where did Xiao's son go wrong? You already have your own children, yet you want Xiao Zhang to take care of you. Don't you owe her some security? She's asking you to go for a notarization, and everyone here can go with you. How convenient is that? The timing, the place, the people, all are on your side, yet you still refuse. What kind of intentions do you really have? 6. The surrounding neighbors chimed in, criticizing the elderly couple for acting unethically and urging Sister Zhang to insist on the notarization. Aunt Zhao and Uncle Li were speechless under the crowd's scrutiny, their faces turning pale and red alternately. Cornered, Uncle Li puffed out his chest and shouted, "Fine, notarization it is. Who's afraid of whom? We've been honest people all our lives. We won't let you ruin our reputation in our old age." Aunt Zhao still tried to stop them, clutching Zhang's hand and pleading, "Daughter, don't do the notarization. I'll write you a will. Wills have legal effect. I won't deceive you." I immediately shouted, "A will can be changed anytime, but a legacy support agreement is much more reliable. It's legally protected. No one can fool you. In my previous life, I was badly deceived by a will. I've always suspected that the elderly couple deliberately gave me a will with questionable handwriting." The onlookers nearby also chimed in, "Yes, wills are too risky. A bequest support agreement is a contract. It will cannot override a contract, so signing the agreement is definitely more reliable. Don't rely on someone's conscience for something this big." Aunt Xiao took Zhang Jie's hand and said, "Little Zhang, we've known each other for so long, don't you still trust us?" Zhang Jie frowned and said hesitantly, "What everyone said makes sense, Aunt Xiao. Let's just get a notarization done, that way, we'll all feel at ease." Aunt Xiao's expression stiffened a bit. Let's think it over again. We can't be impulsive." Sister Zhang hesitated and said, "Maybe we should just forget about the elderly care. Let's just stay as neighbors, and you can find someone else." Aunt Xiao tightly held her hand, her face filled with sorrow as she said, "Daughter, what are you saying? We've known each other for so long. Where else could we find such a wonderful daughter like you? You want to notarize it, then let's do it, as long as you don't abandon us old folks." Seeing Aunt Xiao on the verge of tears, Sister Zhang quickly said, No, I wasn't worried that you wouldn't want to. Since you're willing to notarize it, I definitely won't abandon you." A group of neighbors accompanied Sister Zhang and the elderly couple, marching in a large procession to the notary office, where they signed the inheritance and support agreement and had it notarized on the spot. In my previous life, the elderly couple also refused to let me disclose to others that I was supporting them in their old age, citing privacy concerns, and they had promised to give me the house in return. As a result, although the neighbors all knew that I had taken good care of the elderly couple, when their children later claimed that I was only after the house, no one spoke up for me. In fact, many even took the opportunity to kick me while I was down. At first, when I started caring for the elderly couple, the neighbors praised me for my kindness, but later, the way they looked at me became more scrutinizing. In the eyes of outsiders, it wasn't the elderly couple seeking my care, but rather me eagerly taking care of them. My intentions were as obvious as Sima Zhao's ambition, known to all. When I became a public enemy that everyone wanted to chase away, Sister Zhang never looked at me with prejudice. She treated me just as she always had and even brought me a lot of fruit. In this life, I don't want her to repeat my mistakes. In my past life, I endured humiliation silently for the sake of the elderly couple's so-called reputation and face. In this life, I insist on bringing everything into the light. Walking out of the notary office, Sister Zhang held one hand in each, earnestly promising, "Aunt Xiao, Uncle Li, don't worry, I will take good care of you. If I fail to do so, let the law punish me." Aunt Xiao forced a smile. "I believe you, I believe you." 7. From that day on, every time I saw Sister Zhang, she looked exhausted, her face sallow, her steps hurried, no longer carrying the easy smile she once had. That morning, on my way to work, I saw Sister Zhang again, carrying a food box, sweating profusely as she rushed back to the fruit shop, panting heavily from exhaustion. "Zhang Jie, where did you go so early? You look so exhausted." I couldn't help but ask. Zhang Jie sighed, her face filled with helplessness, and lowered her voice to complain to me. "It's all because of taking care of Aunt Xiao and Uncle Li. This morning I bought some fried dough sticks and buns. Aunt Xiao said she has a sensitive stomach and needs millet porridge, soft and well cooked. Uncle Li, on the other hand, insisted on having the dipping tofu from the shop at the street corner. I stood in line for over half an hour just to get it. I just finished delivering it to them and hurried back to manage the store. Looking at her haggard appearance, I felt nothing but sympathy. They're really too demanding. They're taking advantage of you, not genuinely wanting to enjoy their old age. They're just treating you like a free babysitter." Zhang Jie's eyes turned red as she held back her grievance. "I'm only telling you this. Ever since we signed the agreement, they've changed their attitude toward me, more harsh than how they treat a maid. Today they want this, tomorrow they want that. If things don't go their way, they give me the cold shoulder and scold me. I know they're upset because I insisted on notarizing the agreement, and it hurt their feelings, but I did it to protect myself." She paused, her voice tinged with bitterness. "Actually, it's not that I'm not hurt by how they treat me, but this deal is just too good. I'm truly grateful that Aunt Xiao and Uncle Li chose me. I don't distrust them either, but without that agreement, I'm afraid I wouldn't be able to sleep at night. Although it's tough and tiring now, at least my rights are protected. If Aunt Xiao and Uncle Li never forgive me, then I'll just treat it as having two difficult clients and endure it until it passes." I patted her shoulder and comforted her softly. "Don't be too hard on yourself. They're not hurt, they're just upset because they didn't get the advantage. As long as you have a clear conscience, that's enough. If it really becomes too much, don't force yourself to endure it." Sister Zhang nodded, but the days grew increasingly difficult. The demands of the elderly couple became increasingly unreasonable. Today, they claimed a headache and demanded that Sister Zhang immediately close her shop and take them to the hospital for a checkup, only to find out nothing was wrong. The next day, they suddenly wanted to eat a trendy snack from a popular online shop, forcing Sister Zhang to stand in line for hours to buy it. In the middle of the night, they said they were hungry and called her to get up and cook, scolding her loudly if she was even slightly slow. Sister Zhang was so exhausted that she had no time to manage her fruit shop. Business plummeted, and eventually, she had no choice but to close the shop and devote all her energy to caring for the elderly couple. She grew increasingly thin and listless, her eyes losing their light. Every time she saw me, she would only sigh. "I chose this path, so I can't regret it. No matter how tired I am, I have to keep going." After 3 years of enduring this, Uncle Li suddenly fell seriously ill and was bedridden. Sister Zhang took care of him in the hospital day and night, tending to his every need, from cleaning up after him to feeding him meals and medicine, with more devotion than a biological daughter. However, after Uncle Li passed away, Aunt Xiao's children, who had never shown their faces before, suddenly appeared all at once. 8. The youngest son, who had just been released from prison, immediately went to Aunt Xiao's house, banging on her door and shouting at her for the house, scaring Aunt Xiao so much that she called the police on the spot, and he only left after cursing and grumbling. The other children initially came to the house with fruits and milk, pretending to want to take care of Aunt Xiao, but were scolded and driven away by her. "You ungrateful wretches, only showing up after Dad died. All you care about is the house. I'll never acknowledge you in this lifetime." I happened to be carrying fruit upstairs when I heard their commotion, feeling somewhat surprised. In my previous life, these people only came forward to cause trouble after Aunt Xiao had passed away. But this time it happened so much earlier. Perhaps they had heard some rumor somewhere, knowing that the elderly had signed a legacy support agreement, which is why they couldn't hold back anymore. "Mom, you're out of your mind. That woman is clearly after our house. Millions of dollars worth of property. She only took care of my dad for 3 years. She's made more digging gold than she did taking care of him. I'm willing. I'd rather give her the house than give it to you ungrateful people." Aunt Xiao cried and scolded her children, then turned and took Zhang Jie's hand, her face full of flattery. "Daughter, don't listen to them. Mom only recognizes you. They're all here to steal things. Mom only has you in her heart." Aunt Zhang looked embarrassed and flustered. Watching me go upstairs, she quickly followed, casually saying, "Xiao son, I just wanted to discuss something with you." At my doorstep, she leaned against the wall, letting out a long sigh, her face etched with exhaustion. I opened the door and invited her in, pouring her a cup of hot tea. She held the cup in her hands, which were icy cold, sitting there dazed and unable to utter a single word. "Are you okay, Sister Zhang?" I asked softly. Sister Zhang shook her head, and tears welled up and spilled down her cheeks. "I'm fine, I just feel upset. After all, they are biological mother and son. Blood is thicker than water." Aunt Zhao may scold them, but her eyes can't hide the warmth when she sees them. After Uncle Li passed away, she's been depressed, but today, as soon as her children came, her spirits lifted immediately. "But these 3 years, I've been the one taking care of their meals, hygiene, medical needs, and even their funeral. They never showed up once. Why should they come back now and take credit for it?" I quickly comforted her. "Don't overthink it. You have a notarized agreement, protected by law. No matter how much they make a fuss, it won't change anything. The house is definitely yours." Sister Zhang wiped her tears and choked up, saying, "Xiao son, you have no idea how grateful I am to you. If you hadn't reminded me back then, I'd be in a real fix now, crying out to heaven with no answer, calling to the earth with no response, and running around like an ant on a hot pan. Now that we have the agreement, even though I still feel uneasy, at least I have some peace of mind. No matter what, they won't be able to take the house away." 9. As soon as she finished speaking, a knock sounded at the door. I opened the door and saw Aunt Zhao standing there. Without even glancing at me, she immediately put on a smile and addressed Sister Zhang directly. "Daughter, I've driven those unfilial children away. Don't be afraid. I know in my heart that over these years, you've been a great help to me. I'll never let them bully you." She took Zhang Jie's arm and walked downstairs, constantly belittling her own children while lavishly praising Zhang Jie. "My kids, I never let them do any work since they were little. Now look at them, grown up. None of them can even handle a single task. They can't take care of anyone for a day. How different you are, so kind and so capable. Meeting you is a blessing from my past life. As for them, they're the punishment I earned in my previous life." Zhang Jie's comforting voice came from afar. "Don't worry, I will never be like them." Aunt Zhao's voice grew softer. "Children are all debts. Between people, it's all about fate. I've come to understand that I just don't have that connection with my own children. Even though we're not related by blood, I feel closer to you than to my own flesh and blood. We're the ones who truly have a bond. Like the trendy saying goes, you're the family I chose for myself." I heard Sister Zhang's choked voice, closed the door, and thought of my past life, letting out a low sigh. This life, since the agreement was made early on, I suppose it could be different from the previous one, but Aunt Zhao's children didn't give up. They came over every few days, bringing gifts and sweet-talking Aunt Zhao. At first, Aunt Zhao refused to let them in, but she couldn't resist her own flesh and blood's persistent pleading. Her attitude gradually softened, and she allowed them to come in and sit down. Though she still scolded them verbally, her face was filled with the joy of family reunion. Every time Sister Zhang saw them coming, she felt deeply embarrassed. She either went downstairs to wander around or came to my house to sit, her mood growing worse day by day, constantly shedding tears. They're a real family now, and I'm just an outsider. After serving them for 3 years, in the end, it's all just a joke. She covered her face, overwhelmed with grievance. "I know I did it for the house, but I also poured real effort into it. 3 years of care, can't that be worth more than a few sweet words?" Later, Aunt Zhao became increasingly distant toward Sister Zhang. Even when her children left, she no longer called her, only casually summoning her to cook when mealtime came around. Their former closeness was gone forever. As the Lunar New Year approached, Sister Zhang came to me in tears, her voice choked. "Xiao son, Auntie Zhao said the family should be reunited for the new year, so she asked me to make the reunion dinner. What exactly am I to them?" But Sister Zhang still held back her grievances and prepared that table of reunion dinner. On New Year's Eve, a loud crash of things being smashed suddenly came from downstairs, along with intense shouting. All the neighbors came out to watch the commotion. 10. Auntie Zhao's eldest son overturned the dining table, sending pots, pans, and dishes crashing to the floor. He pointed at Sister Zhang and yelled, "You heartless thing, on New Year's Eve, you serve such bland, watery dishes, not a drop of oil in sight." Are you feeding cats? Is this how you usually mistreat my mom? Sister Zhang was so angry that her whole body trembled, crying as she defended herself. The doctor said Aunt Zhao has a weak stomach and should avoid greasy and fatty foods. Besides, although there's little meat, it's not completely absent. I alone washed, prepared, and cut everything in the kitchen, specially making steamed sea bass, lily shrimp, and yam rib soup, all good for health. Everyone knows what you're thinking. Aunt Zhao, however, sided with her children, pointing at Sister Zhang's nose and shouting sharply, "You're just stingy, unwilling to give me good food, deliberately giving us a hard time during the new year. I really misjudged you." Zhao's eldest daughter chimed in, her face filled with disdain. "Exactly, doesn't she know her own place? After taking care of my mom for a few years, she really thinks she's the mistress of this house. She's just after our house. What a fake act of kindness. I didn't pretend to be kind. Over these 3 years, have I ever failed to do my best?" Sister Zhang's eyes were red, her voice choked with suppressed grievance. "When Uncle Li was hospitalized, I was the one who took care of him, feeding him, changing his bedding, staying by his bedside. None of you showed up. When Aunt Zhao had a headache or fever, I was the one who ran to the hospital in the middle of the night to register and get medicine. None of you even called. I closed my fruit shop and devoted myself entirely to taking care of the two of them, and this is how you repay me. Taking care of us was your own choice." Aunt Zhao spat in Zhang Jie's face. "Who forced you to close the store? If you hadn't pretended to be kind and generous back then, would I have chosen you? Now that you see my family reunited, you can't keep up the act anymore, can you?" Hearing this, Aunt Zhao's youngest son shouted loudly, "I think you just deserve a good beating. I'm going to the court right now to sue you for elder abuse, cancel that stupid agreement, and make you leave with nothing, no penny at all." The other children chimed in, "Yes, the agreement must be revoked." Zhang Jie covered her face and wailed in tears. 3 years of dedication had ended up with such slander and accusations. A few days later, Aunt Zhao and her children actually filed a lawsuit, claiming that Sister Zhang had abused the elderly and demanding the revocation of the inheritance support agreement. But Sister Zhang provided bank transfer records from the past 3 years, chat records, receipts for medicine and medical treatment, as well as witness statements from our neighbors, forming a complete chain of evidence proving that she had faithfully fulfilled her support obligations and had not engaged in any abuse. However, Aunt Zhao made a scene in court, insisting that Sister Zhang had abused her and firmly demanded the revocation of the agreement. After reviewing the case, the court determined that Sister Zhang had no legal obligation to support Aunt Zhao, and Aunt Zhao had no valid reason to terminate the agreement. In the end, the court ruled that Aunt Zhao must compensate Sister Zhang with 120,000 yuan. However, this 120,000 yuan could never make up for Sister Zhang's 3 years of dedication and the deep wounds in her heart. She packed her bags and decided to leave this place of sorrow. Before leaving, she came to see me, her eyes red and filled with regret. "How many 3-year periods does a person have in life? I've paid the price for my greed and wishful thinking," I said. "Don't speak of yourself that way. A true gentleman judges by actions, not intentions." If she had been a person of conscience, this could have been a beautiful story. Now, it's good that you've cut your losses in time, to avoid investing even more. Her eyes were red with anger as she said bitterly, "Well, that's just perfect. Since she insisted on canceling the agreement, let those ungrateful children take care of her. They're all talk and only know how to sweet-talk people. If they really have to handle her toileting and bathing, they won't last long." I nodded and said, "I believe that in the days to come, under the care of her sons and daughters, she'll come to understand just how important a conscience is." 11. After Sister Zhang left, Aunt Zhao's life indeed became miserable. Not long after, due to a lack of attentive care and poor hygiene, she fell ill and was hospitalized. Both sons used work as an excuse to avoid taking care of her at the hospital, while the 3 daughters took turns staying with her. However, they ended up fighting over the shift schedule, slapping each other and hurling vulgar insults right in the hospital room. The whole incident spread like wildfire among the neighbors, turning into a huge joke. After Aunt Zhao was discharged from the hospital, her children still came to see her occasionally, but unlike before when the 3 daughters would come together, they never showed up together again. Even if they happened to run into each other, they wouldn't exchange a single word. With no other options left, Aunt Zhao swallowed her pride and knocked on my door again, wearing a hypocritical smile and speaking in a humble tone. "Showing I was wrong before, I spoke too harshly, please don't Hold it against me, I'm all alone now, with not many days left to live. Please help me one more time. This time, I'll sign the agreement right away. The house will definitely be yours, just say yes, okay. I waved my hands repeatedly. No need, you can give that blessing to someone else. Seeing me refuse, Aunt Xiao immediately changed her expression again. She stood at my doorstep, throwing a tantrum and refusing to leave, shouting, "You're just cold-hearted and ruthless, refusing to help someone in need. This house is a sure profit for you. Why won't you agree?" I couldn't be bothered to argue with her, so I slammed the door shut, cutting off her tantrum and ignoring her for good. After I refused her, Aunt Xiao didn't give up. She went around the neighborhood asking people to take care of her in her old age. But her behavior had already spread throughout the community. Everyone knew she was mean, ungrateful, and unkind, so very few people were willing to have anything to do with her. Later, she heard that she had found another idle man and signed a pension agreement, but she didn't expect that this man was even more cruel than her. The man first coaxed and threatened Aunt Xiao into transferring the house ownership, then took her mountain climbing. Taking advantage of her inattention, he pushed her off the cliff, just as passing tourists happened to witness the incident. By the time Aunt Xiao was found at the bottom of the cliff, she was lying in a pool of blood. Unrecognizable, already lifeless. Her children, upon hearing the news, immediately gathered together, hoping to divide the compensation money and the house, but the murderer had long been heavily in debt, penniless, and had already mortgaged the house to settle his debts. Now, there was no money, only a life to lose. In the end, they got nothing and had to disperse in disappointment, never speaking to each other again. When I heard the news, I was filled with sorrow. In life, kindness is precious and should only be given to those who truly deserve it. When you encounter those ungrateful, greedy, and malicious people, distancing yourself in time is the best protection for yourself. Don't let your kindness turn into a sharp knife stabbing yourself. After hearing the first story above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Next, there is another similar story. Let's continue to see. My parents have always believed in hardship education, deliberately hiding from me the fact that our family is wealthy. Every day, they would complain and cry about being poor in front of me. I had no choice but to pick up discarded, broken pencil stubs to do my homework and use the tiny eraser scraps that others had cut off with rulers. When I was 10, a well-off couple once wanted to adopt me, but I refused. Later, when I was being bullied and turned to my parents for help, they claimed the family had neither money nor influence, and told me to just endure it. In the end, I simply couldn't bear it anymore. Depressed to the extreme, I chose to end my life by jumping off a building. When I opened my eyes again, I had actually been reborn. I was reborn on the very day that couple wanted to adopt me. This time, I chose my adoptive parents without hesitation. "You're so adorable, little sister. We'd like to adopt you. Would you like to become part of our family?" A gentle and elegant young woman said to me with a warm smile. Standing beside her was her husband, wearing glasses and looking every bit the polite, refined gentleman. I looked at them with a puzzled expression. Didn't I die from jumping off a building? It took a few seconds to realize I had been reborn. Today was the very day this couple wanted to adopt me, and my parents were waiting for my answer. Dad deliberately put on a stern face to scare me. "If you leave with them, you'll no longer be our child, and we'll no longer be your mom and dad." Still putting on a wounded expression, "Do you look down on mom and dad for not having money? It's our fault for not being capable enough." In my past life, hearing Dad say that would only make me feel sorry for them, and I would shake my head, denying that I ever looked down on them. After I chose them, my parents rarely showed me a relieved smile, saying they hadn't raised me for nothing. But now, having been reborn, I know they had money yet turned a blind eye to my classmates bullying me, which ultimately led to my depression and suicide by jumping off a building. This time, I won't choose my biological parents out of pity for them. I smiled and held the aunt's hand. "Auntie, I'm willing to go with you. You're so gentle, and I really like you." She had a faint fragrance about her that made me feel very at ease. The aunt was moved to tears and hugged me tightly. Thinking back to my previous life, I was an only child, and the three of us squeezed into a cramped rental apartment. Surprisingly, I attended an elite school. I heard my father had begged many connections to secure the opportunity, and my parents urged me to cherish it. Since I was little, my parents have always drilled into me that our family has no money, so I mustn't spend recklessly or cause trouble that would burden them. I can't fight with classmates because our family can't afford to pay for the consequences. Everything is a no, not allowed. I am always being rejected, so I never dared to say anything when I saw something I liked. When I saw snacks I wanted to eat, I would just hold back and silently swallow my saliva. When classmates were eating snacks, I could only watch them with envy. They asked me, "Why have we never seen you eat snacks?" I lied and said, "I don't like it." Every time class fees were due, I was always the last to hand them in. The teacher reminded me countless times, and all my classmates looked at me with puzzled eyes, probably wondering why I didn't have the money for the class fee, because they never had to worry about such a small amount of money. But I was different the moment everyone's eyes were on me. My face felt as if it were on fire, my palms sweating with nervousness and embarrassment. To save face, I lied and said, "Teacher, I forgot, I'll definitely hand it in tomorrow." My parents always had all sorts of excuses for delaying giving me money. Either the boss was withholding their wages, or the money had been used to pay off debts, always waiting until the last minute to give me the money. But the bag my mom carries every day looks like a big brand my classmates talk about. When I asked her about it, she panicked and said, "This is a fake bag, it's not worth anything." I let out an "oh," feeling a bit disappointed. I thought I had finally seen a glimmer of hope. And Dad's belt, the same brand as my classmates. They said this brand costs at least a few thousand yuan. Curious, I went to ask Dad if his belt was very expensive, but Dad told me it was a street vendor item, bought for 10 yuan. At the time, I simply thought, if only our family were wealthy, my life would be a little easier. That day, my dad, who usually picked me up from school on his electric scooter, broke from routine and drove a luxury car to fetch me. He nervously reminded me, "This is borrowed from the boss, be careful not to scratch it, or our whole family's sold wouldn't be enough to pay for the damage." I was so scared that I sat in the car as if on pins and needles, not daring to move a muscle, feeling completely out of place in the luxury vehicle. A deep sense of inferiority washed over me. I timidly said to Dad, "Dad, please don't drive such an expensive car to pick me up anymore. I'm afraid if we scratch it, we won't be able to afford the repairs." Dad laughed heartily. "Maybe if we beg the boss, he won't make us pay so much." I took his joking words seriously. Do we really have to rely on begging others? I feel so useless, unable to help my parents. The guilt in my heart almost suffocates my small frame. The culture of comparison at this elite school is intense. Their parents are either billionaires or high-ranking officials, and many of them wear designer clothes, with prices that easily run into the thousands or tens of thousands. Because I was poor and lacked confidence, I chose to endure everything, so my temper was famously good in the class. They confidently gave me the nickname, punching bag. Anyone who was in a bad mood could come and scold me, and I would be endlessly grateful if they just tossed me 50 cents or a pack of spicy sticks. My classmates discovered that my family was truly poor. I used discarded, broken pencil stubs to do my homework and pick up eraser shavings that others have cut off with rulers to use. After they found out, some classmates even deliberately stepped on my hands while I was picking things up. Thinking about how my family has no money and I can't afford to cause trouble, I could only timidly say, "You stepped on me." They would just laugh heartily and say without a hint of remorse, "Sorry, okay." Every day at school, I tread on thin ice, terrified of upsetting my classmates in case they complained to their parents. I even imagined that if I made my classmates unhappy, my parents would face pressure from their wealthy and powerful families, leading to our whole family ending up on the streets. As a result, I grew more timid, jumping at the slightest sound. As things progressed, they became increasingly outrageous. Someone started drawing on my clothes, arms, and face. Sometimes it was a turtle, sometimes a big tabby cat. I could wash off the drawings on my face and arms, though each time my skin would turn red from scrubbing, and it hurt a little, but there was nothing I could do about the ones on my clothes. When I got home and was discovered with stains on my clothes, my mother cried as she scrubbed them for me, saying, "Why are you so clueless, child?" Her words cut into my heart like a knife. I didn't dare speak up, so I silently admitted to having scribbled on them myself. After that, my mother discovered the same situation several more times, and by the fourth time, she started hitting me with a clothes hanger. Mom's eyes were filled with frustration, as if I were a piece of unshapeable iron. "Don't you know that 3 strikes and you're out?" As soon as she finished speaking, the clothes hanger struck me. I had no face to dodge. Dirtying clothes meant I was wasting money. Our family had no money, and every single item should be cherished. I feel very guilty, thinking this is the punishment I deserve. I remained silent, which made Mom even angrier. Her movements grew fiercer. "You're still being stubborn, still stubborn. I told you not to scribble everywhere, but you still had to draw. Couldn't you have drawn in a notebook?" Do you have to get beaten to be happy, you wretched girl, damned good for nothing? Every word of Mom's scolding made me feel even more miserable inside. I could only silently repeat in my heart, Mom, I'm sorry, I didn't have the courage to fight back against the bullies at school, because I knew my family had no money. It was only later that I found out my parents didn't have to live in such a shabby and cramped place. We didn't have to squeeze 3 people into one bed either. Thinking back on the elite school I attended with its annual tuition of over 100,000 yuan, it all seems utterly ridiculous. They can clearly afford a washing machine. But Mom is just pretending to be pitiful in front of me on purpose, because her movements, while washing clothes, are not at all skilled. Her hands are fair and delicate. Unlike those of someone who has worked hard all year round, she only half-heartedly scrubs a few times, and if the clothes don't come clean, she gets angry and comes to hit me. I said I would wash them myself, but she stubbornly refused. She said, just study hard and that will be enough for me. Go do your homework, go read your books. We've worked so hard and sacrificed so much for you, all so you can focus on your studies. Don't you dare take it for granted. But I want to say, this isn't what I want. It's practically emotional blackmail, so suffocating. My parents live a life of luxury, yet they make me suffer as if I'm living in hell, enduring endless humiliation and ridicule. After I died and became a spirit, I witnessed the scenes that followed my death. When my parents arrived at the scene and saw my body, they forced out a few tears in front of everyone, pretending to be heartbroken over the loss of their child. Yet, just a few days after my funeral, they were already discussing when to have another child. My father even blamed me, saying, that wretched girl had no luck. If only she had endured a little longer until we told her our family was wealthy, everything would have been fine. How foolish. She didn't even know to tell her teacher when she was bullied. Since she's dead, let it be. A fool like her would have been useless even if she had grown up. Mom nodded in agreement. Exactly. Wasn't it all to toughen her up, to teach her the value of contentment? Who would have thought she couldn't handle such a minor setback? Depression, probably just an act. She's most likely making excuses to skip school. I could only smile bitterly upon hearing this. What good would telling the teacher do? Because my parents pretended to be poor, they never gave the teacher any gifts. The teacher figured my family had no money anyway, so she never paid me any attention. Many times, the teachers clearly saw me being bullied but chose to pretend not to notice. Mom actually thinks I'm faking it. If I were faking it, would I have jumped off a building? Even if I died, they still wouldn't believe me. In their eyes, perhaps it doesn't matter whether I'm alive or dead. Thinking of my past life, my heart ached with a dull, throbbing pain. My thoughts returned to the present, seeing me hugging the adoptive mother. Dad said angrily, you'd better think this through. If our family becomes wealthy in the future and you want to come back, there won't be another chance. I'm giving you this opportunity, don't waste it. My resolve was firm. I've made up my mind. Mom stood by, looking at me with eyes that regarded me as trash, and said sarcastically, a daughter is just useless. What kind of little cotton-padded jacket is she? Clearly, she's a leaky one, always pulling elbows outward. The adoptive aunt glanced at me with pity and angrily retorted to my mom, how can you say that to a child? How can you not care for your own child at all? Don't you think she'll be hurt when you talk to her like that? When the aunt looked at me, her eyes were filled with heartache, because my parents pretended to be poor. My clothes were all too short, yet they never bought me new ones. They pretended to be poor, and I thought our family couldn't afford meat, so I deliberately left all the meat for them to eat. As a result, I became sallow and emaciated, looking severely malnourished. My parents thought I was a picky eater and scolded me many times, even forcing me to eat by stuffing meat into my mouth. I cried and spat it out. They beat me harshly, yelling at me for wasting food. Dad glared at me fiercely. Damn it, we work so hard to buy meat for you, and you dare to spit it out. If you're so picky, go eat shit. I shrank into myself, hugging my arms, but deep down, I was still relieved. If I ate less, my parents could have more. Thinking back on those memories, I feel both heartache and a bitter amusement. I felt sorry for them, but whoever felt sorry for me? Mom and Dad saw how close I was with the adoptive aunt. Their eyes filled with jealousy. Get out of here, and don't ever come back. Dad shouted at me angrily. The adoptive uncle shielded my frail figure behind him. How can you yell at a child like that? She's still so young, and you have the heart to do this. It seems to me you just don't want to raise her anymore. You're not fit to be parents at all. Just frightened by Dad's furious roar. With the uncle's tall figure blocking the way, my anxious and uneasy emotions finally calmed down a bit. You ungrateful wretch, Don't you dare come crawling back crying when you find out how well off our family becomes. Dad glared at me haughtily as I stood behind my uncle. Sorry Dad, but I already know, I don't want your money, no matter how much you have. My uncle and aunt quickly took me away and went through the adoption procedures. From now on, you are our child. You can call us Mom and Dad, but if you don't like that, it's okay, you can call us Auntie and Uncle instead. As she spoke those last words, a clear look of disappointment appeared on the aunt's face. Dad, Mom, I said, my voice trembling. Yes, Mom really likes Shuang Shuang, my adoptive mother responded happily. She held my hand, her palms soft and so warm. This was the first time I had ever felt such a warm and cozy atmosphere. I was so happy that I was afraid it was all a dream, terrified it would suddenly vanish upon waking. My adoptive father affectionately patted my head. Shuang Shuang is such a good girl. Remember, if you ever have any problems or get bullied, you must tell Mom and Dad, okay? We'll protect you, okay? With great effort, I managed to utter a single word, my voice almost choked with emotion. It was a promise I had never received from my biological parents. When we arrived at my adoptive parents' home and I saw it was a villa, I finally realized just how wealthy they were. They dressed so modestly, without any of the haughty airs that often come with wealth. Instead, they were incredibly down-to-earth, gentle and kind-hearted people. My adoptive mother said to me in a playful tone, Shuang Shuang, if there's any toy you like or anything you want to buy, just let us know. As long as Mom and Dad can afford it, we'll buy it for you. Thank you, Mom and Dad, I understand. Hearing my adoptive mother say this, I was so moved that I almost burst into tears. My biological parents would only complain to me about being poor, telling me to save money and endure everything in silence. They never gave me a single good day. Instead, they pushed me into an endless abyss. This comparison even makes me wonder if my biological parents are truly my own. Even on the day of the adoption, my mother still thought her daughter was a leaky cotton-padded jacket. She must have resented me for not being a boy. My adoptive parents asked me, Shuang Shuang, do you want to change schools, or would you rather continue studying there? I'm still at the elite school, and my classmates haven't started bullying me yet. They were just looking at my shabby clothes and gossiping about me behind my back. I earnestly told my adoptive parents, I want to go to a public school. I'll study hard. All right, Shuang Shuang, go for it. We believe in you. My adoptive father encouraged me with a smile. Hearing those words of encouragement, I froze for a moment, unsure how to react, because in my past life, I had never once heard my parents encourage me. There was only endless belittling and disparagement. I had never imagined that someone would say such words to me. Thank you, Dad, for encouraging me, I replied, tears welling up in my eyes. My foster father seemed a bit at a loss, unsure why I looked on the verge of tears. He patted my shoulder. This is what a father should do. I'll always be your support. My tears burst forth like a broken dam, and I cried until my face was soaked. No one has ever been this kind to me before. Thank you. These past few days, my adoptive mother bought me many beautiful clothes, helped me style my hair, and transformed me from an ugly duckling into a graceful swan. Looking at myself in the mirror, I realized for the first time that I could look this beautiful, that I too deserved to wear lovely clothes. They would ask me what I liked to eat and have the chef prepare it, but with my biological parents, I never received such treatment. They only buy the food they like to eat, and if I don't eat it, they scold me for being picky. That's why I say my adoptive parents treated me too well. My adoptive mother hugged me comfortingly, saying, it's okay, from now on, we'll always be good to you. This is your home. My adoptive father sighed and took my hand, saying, if you're sad, just cry, let it out, and you'll feel better. Do you want to go to the amusement park this weekend? I buried myself in my adoptive mother's embrace, crying, when suddenly I heard my adoptive father mention the amusement park. That was the place I had always dreamed of, yet I had never been there even once. I still remember when the school organized an autumn outing to the amusement park for the students, but I had no money and could only stay at home. I lifted my head and looked at my adoptive father, timidly asking, can we really go? Of course, my adoptive father said firmly. I replied sheepishly, I want to go. My adoptive mother was delighted. Great. Then we'll all go together this weekend, in this harmonious atmosphere. I thought, how wonderful it would be if we could stay in this moment forever. Shuang Shuang, if you kneel and apologize to us now, we'll forgive your previous ingratitude and take you back home. My biological father glared at me, shouting in an extremely stern tone. Today, my adoptive parents and I were about to go to the amusement park when, just as we stepped out the door, we saw two unexpected visitors. It was my biological parents. Arriving in a luxury car, dressed in glamorous clothes, don't they usually love pretending to be poor, wearing old clothes when there are new ones to be had? They just love putting on a show of being hardworking and enduring hardship in front of me. And now, the moment I leave home, they reveal their true wealth. Now they dress head to toe as if afraid no one will know they have money. The scene they had imagined, with me crying and begging for forgiveness, never materialized. I said coldly, "I won't go with you. Didn't you say it yourselves? I'm no longer your child." My mother gritted her teeth in anger. "What an ungrateful wretch. I carried you for 10 months, you monster. Raising you was worse than raising a dog," I sneered. "When you pretended to be poor, did you ever treat me like your own child? When I was bullied at school, did you ever speak up for me? Do you know how it felt to always be the last one to hand in class fees? All those classmates laughed at me for having no money. Do you know I could only pick up pens and erasers that others had thrown away? You know nothing, and even if you did, you wouldn't help me, you wouldn't care even if I died." My final words were almost screamed out with all my strength. My biological parents looked stunned. My father explained, "We just wanted you to learn the value of things. We didn't tell you earlier about the family's wealth because we were afraid you'd develop wasteful spending habits," I said with a bitter smile. "And you just had to send me to a prestigious school with tuition over 100,000 a year. Don't you know how intense the competition and comparison are there? Every day at school felt like torture, and you always said we had no money. I didn't even dare tell you when I was bullied," I cried out angrily. "Now that I have new parents, you still want to take away my right to happiness. Can't you stand to see me doing well? What do you even want from me?" I sobbed out my final words, then collapsed weakly to the ground, curling into a ball as I hugged myself. Just seeing my biological parents made me emotionally break down. My body trembled uncontrollably as I buried my head and wept silently. Upon hearing my words, my biological parents couldn't help but blame me. My biological father said, "We did everything for your own good. How can you still hold it against us? It's our first time being parents too. Isn't it normal to lack experience?" My biological mother glared at me with venomous eyes. "Was it wrong for us to raise you all these years? Why are you so resentful? You only remember the bad and forget the good. If we had known, we might as well have strangled you at birth." Only after listening to my story did my adoptive parents realize how many blows I had endured. They felt even more heartache for me. My adoptive mother crouched down and hugged me to comfort me. My adoptive father angrily scolded my biological parents. "You're simply too much. Are you even fit to be parents? Shuang Shuang is our child now, so get out of here quickly." Hearing the utterly inhuman words from my biological parents, my adoptive mother trembled with rage. Originally gentle and approachable, she was so enraged that she screamed, "Get out of here now, or I'll call the police. Shuang Shuang is already our adopted child. Don't even think about taking her away." Before leaving, my biological parents gave me a disdainful glance and said to my adoptive parents, "This ungrateful brat will eventually turn her back on you and choose another family. Be careful, don't celebrate too soon." In the end, they drove off in their luxury car. "Mom, Dad, I won't choose anyone else," I tried to explain. I never expected my biological parents would try to smear me before leaving. At that moment, my heart was filled with unease. I was terrified of being abandoned the very next second. My adoptive parents comforted me, saying, "We believe Shuang Shuang is a kind-hearted child. You did nothing wrong, so don't overthink it." I was so moved that I couldn't express it in words, and I nodded heavily. After going through such a series of twists and turns, my mind and body have suffered a tremendous blow. I've completely lost any desire to go to the amusement park. When my adoptive parents called me to get in the car again, I chose to shake my head despondently. "I'm sorry, Mom and Dad, I don't want to go. I think I will never forgive my biological parents in this lifetime. This is your good classmate, Qin Shuang Shuang, who won't even acknowledge her own biological parents. What a disgusting, bad child. Come and see, everyone. Even a dog doesn't despise a poor home, but Qin Shuang Shuang is worse than a dog." My biological mother yanked hard on one of my arms, pointing at me and criticizing me. It was just after school, and the crowd was surging. Many heads, big and small, turned to look in my direction. Their gazes held inquiry, curiosity, contempt. My face instantly burned as if on fire, and I wished I could find a crack in the ground to crawl into. "Let me go, let me go. Why are you doing this?" I cried, struggling with all my might, but my strength was no match for an adult's. I never expected my biological mother to come to the school and cause a scene. In the past, my biological parents always made me squeeze onto the bus to get home. They never once came to pick me up after school." My mother scowled. "Well, you little wretch, you've only been in someone else's house for a few days, and now you won't even call your own mother. I'll beat you to death, you little brat." As soon as she finished speaking, her slaps rained down on my face, stinging with a fiery pain. I kept dodging. "Don't hit my face." Upon hearing this, my biological mother struck even harder. "So you still care about your face, huh? I think you're shameless enough to call a thief your father, abandoning your own flesh and blood. I'll beat you to death, you little wretch." And so, my own mother staged a scene of domestic violence right at the school gate, drawing an ever-growing crowd of onlookers. I even spotted several familiar faces, my own classmates. After a few minutes, a security guard finally stepped forward to try and stop her. "What are you doing, ma'am? How can you just hit a child like that?" My biological mother: "Who are you to tell me how to raise my child? Mind your own business." Ignoring the security guard's attempts to stop her, she continued slapping me in front of everyone. A few people stepped forward and pulled her away. "What are you doing, ma'am? You can't discipline your child right at the school gate. Children have their own dignity too," my biological mother retorted defiantly. "I want to humiliate her. She deserves to be hit." Dignity? How dare she have any dignity after I raised her all these years? If I hadn't raised her, would she have grown up at all? A young woman stepped forward and accused my mother. "You're just being unreasonable." In the end, someone called the police. The police gave my biological mother a few words of criticism and education, and then the matter was dropped. "Chin shuang shuang is worse than a dog." Lately, this phrase has been circulating in class. It echoes in my mind like a curse. Whenever they gather and whisper, I feel like they're talking about me. I clearly remember it came from my mother's mouth. Maybe a classmate happened to overhear it that day. The classmates began openly insulting and attacking me, calling me heartless, saying I wouldn't even acknowledge my own biological parents, that I was an animal in this life. The first knife was stabbed by my mother. My classmates cursed me and spread rumors about me. I explained, "It's my parents who treated me poorly. They made me choose whether to go to the adoptive family. It's not at all like what you're saying." They wouldn't listen to the truth and kept on cursing me. I couldn't take it anymore and told my adoptive parents, "Mom, Dad, I don't want to stay at this school anymore. Last time my birth mother went and caused a scene, and now so many people in the class are cursing me." My adoptive mother looked worried. "Caused a scene? You weren't hurt, were you? Shuang shuang, why didn't you tell us?" That day, after being slapped, I secretly used my adoptive mother's foundation and concealer to cover my face. During the meal, I kept my head down, and as soon as I finished eating, I ran back to my room, so they didn't notice anything unusual. I forced a smile and said, "Mom, I'm fine." My adoptive father frowned and said, "They've gone too far, we can't let them get away with this." I've always been haunted by the fear of causing trouble, so I tried to persuade him. "Dad, I don't want to make a big deal out of this." My adoptive father firmly refused. "No, I won't let you be bullied for nothing." My adoptive parents went to the school to communicate on my behalf and cleared my name. The homeroom teacher also warned certain students not to spread rumors. My days at school became much easier, and in my previous life, if it had been the same situation, I could only endure it myself. No one ever helped or protected me. Shuang shuang, go beg your adoptive parents to keep supplying us. I've already warned your mother not to bother you anymore. I had just taken a few steps out of the school gate when my biological father suddenly appeared from the side, grabbed my hand, and urgently said these words. I was left completely bewildered, not understanding a word of what he meant. "Why are you telling me this?" "I have no idea," I said, forcefully shaking off his hand. My biological father pleaded, "Go and beg for mercy. Ask them to spare us. They must know." I saw my adoptive mother smiling and waving at me from not far away, coming to pick me up. I said to my biological father, "They're here, you can tell them yourself." My biological father shook his head frantically. "I told you it's no use, Shuang shuang. Dad is begging you, for the sake of all these years of family ties. Please help us." I ignored him and walked straight toward my adoptive mother. She asked me, "Did he give you any trouble?" I shook my head, and only then did she feel relieved. After getting home, I couldn't help but ask my adoptive parents curiously, "Mom, Dad, what business issues did he mention to you?" My adoptive father explained to me, "We are his suppliers. In the past, we always had our assistants negotiate contracts with him. This time, I went myself. When I realized it was him, I decided we would no longer supply goods to them." Great, Mom and Dad, You're amazing, I clapped happily. Unable to hide the smile on my face, I said very seriously, thank you, Mom and Dad. I knew they had sacrificed a lot for me. Not supplying goods to my biological parents means my adoptive parents will earn less money. My adoptive father looked inscrutable. He's so eager for you to plead on his behalf, probably because he'll have to pay a hefty penalty for breach of contract. He continued, I also told a few supplier friends I know not to supply him with goods. They'd better behave themselves and stay out of trouble. My adoptive mother hugged me, patted my head, and said proudly, humph, who told them to bully our Shuang? My biological parents had lost their supply source in a short time, and the delivery deadline was fast approaching, leaving them in a frantic state. After school, I saw my biological mother, who had been forced to come to apologize to me. She spoke in a humble tone. I'm sorry, Shuang, it's my fault. I shouldn't have scolded you. Can you forgive me? Please, beg your adoptive parents for mercy, or your father and I will be ruined. Just as I expected, the last sentence was all about money. Ha, how ironic. There actually came a day when she apologized to me. This was a scene I never dared to imagine, only, it was for the money. An apology she gave reluctantly. I chose not to forgive, turned around without a word, and walked away. Knowing that my adoptive parents were protecting me, this time she didn't dare to hit or scold me again. My biological mother could only grit her teeth and watch me leave with unwillingness in her heart. With people who truly loved me, I finally felt a bit more confident inside. I asked my adoptive parents curiously, Mom and Dad, why didn't you have children of your own? Adoptive mother, I'm afraid of the pain. Adoptive father, whether to have a child or not is up to your mother. They both spoke at the same time, feeling a bit awkward. I smiled and said, it's okay, even if you have a younger brother or sister in the future, I won't blame you. My biological parents were terrible, and I'm already grateful for all the care and attention you've given me. My foster mother sighed and patted my head. What a silly child, how could we not love you? Even if we have younger siblings, you'll still be our precious one. Tears welled up in my eyes as I nodded silently. As soon as the semester ended, my foster parents immediately helped me transfer to a new school. At the new school, I began a new life, with the protection of my adoptive parents. My biological parents no longer dared to cause trouble for me. I ran into my biological parents a few times later, and we didn't even greet each other. Just like strangers, they used to ride in million-dollar luxury cars, but now they can only ride electric scooters. They even wear their clothes until they fade and still can't bear to replace them. I guess they must have suffered heavy losses in that business deal. When our eyes met, I caught a faint trace of resentment in their gaze. In Mother's arms was a small figure, a cute little girl. The affection in my biological parents' eyes for her was evident, a kind of love I had never been able to receive from them. There is now one more person in this world who shares a blood tie with me, but that is all there is to it. We will probably never cross paths. I studied hard every day and finally got into the university of my dreams. Life just kept getting better and better. After all these years, my adoptive parents still haven't had a baby of their own. They treat me as their one and only beloved treasure. Too, have long regarded them as my birth parents, and I am deeply devoted to them. Acknowledging that I am not loved by my birth parents is the first step toward changing my life. Second, cherish those who are good to you. Then, love yourself, pursue your dreams, and live the life you want. After hearing the second story above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Next, there is another similar story. Let's continue to see. After being abandoned by my reborn brother under a bridge, I gained a strange family. My father is 15 years old, who would steal milk powder and clumsily feed me. My mother is 12 years old, and she steals wool to keep me warm all winter long. My little father is 10 years old, and he steals toys just to make me smile. With the things they've stolen, they've built a home for me in a dilapidated old house. When my biological parents found me and accused them, I coldly retorted, none of your damn business. They don't understand. Some homes, born in gold and jade, are filled with hatred, while my home, born of theft, is built entirely of love. Zhenghao, don't blame me, blame yourself for coming back and causing Shishi's death. The icy words echoed in my ears. This is Zhengzha's voice, but how could that be? Didn't I already die of illness on that lonely winter night? I struggled to open my eyes, but everything before me was a blur. I wanted to speak, but what came out was, ah. I was stunned for a moment. He held me tightly in his arms, and in my ears were his rapid panting and pounding heartbeat. After running for who knows how long, he finally stopped and threw me onto the cold ground. Only if you die can Cece live a peaceful life until old age in this lifetime." He finished speaking, then turned and left without a trace of hesitation. The cold wind howled, and I shivered in my swaddling clothes. So the first thing my brother did after being reborn was to make me die all over again. Scenes from my past life flashed through my mind like a fast-forwarded movie, switched at birth with malicious intent. I suffered for 18 years in the Chen family. When my biological parents found me, I had thought it was my salvation. I remember the day I came home. She stood on the stairs in a white dress, tears streaming down her face before she could even speak. Mom impatiently said to her, "Why haven't you moved out yet?" Her eyes were filled with tears, yet she still smiled and said, "Mom, I'll move out in a moment." That very day, she took her own life in the bathroom. From then on, the whole family hated me. The biting cold wind pulled my thoughts back, and my consciousness gradually blurred. "It's just as well to die like this." Before my consciousness sank into darkness, I heard a clear male voice. "Why is there a baby here? She's so tiny, so pitiful." The girl gently touched my cheek. Wanna hold?" A boy excitedly waved his arms and danced around. When I woke again, I was in an earthen house. The walls were plastered with yellow mud, the roof beams were blackened, and old cobwebs hung from them. 3 children were gathered around the Kong, arguing. "We can barely feed ourselves. How can we take care of her?" Jixing frowned. "Taking her to the police station tomorrow is the safest option. If we take her to the police station, she'll end up in an orphanage." And Ying's voice suddenly choked up. "I can't let her become a second me." Jixing fell silent for a moment, his voice softening. "Maybe her family is looking for her. And Ying sneered. "If you really cared about her, would you have left her in a bridge tunnel to die? What if she was stolen?" "I don't care about others," and Ying interrupted him, stubbornly wiping her eyes. "I only know that if we abandon her now, she might die." The two argued back and forth, then simultaneously turned to the boy who had been silent all along. "Gubai, what do you think?" Gubai chuckled. "Sister, brother, I'm fine with either." Aning, "See, Gubai agrees with me." Jisheng, "See, Gubai thinks the same as I do." Gubai didn't look at them. He leaned over the edge of the Kong, his clear eyes fixed unblinkingly on me. When he saw me open my eyes, they suddenly lit up, and he clumsily extended a finger, gently touching my cheek. "Heh," he mumbled, then looked up at the two arguing and happily shouted, "She's awake." The argument abruptly ceased. Aning and Jixing both leaned in at the same time, 6 eyes fixed on me with tension. I stared blankly at the 3 youthful faces before me. They look so young, much younger than I was when I died in despair in my past life. After Jingxi died, Mother went mad. One moment, she was gently stroking my hair, her eyes red and her voice choked with emotion. "My poor baby has suffered so much." The next moment, the instant she learned of Zhengxi's death, her palm came whistling through the air and struck my face with a resounding slap. "It's you killed her. Give my Shishi back to me." She lunged at me, her hands gripping my neck, her nails digging deep into my flesh. Father remained with his back to us the entire time, standing by the window, a pile of cigarette butts scattered at his feet. Brother Zhengzhi returned from abroad, but Zhengxi had already been cremated. He didn't even get to see her one last time. He pushed me down the stairs, my body tumbled down the steps, and amidst the excruciating pain, I only heard his icy voice, "Go and be buried with Shishi." Lying in a pool of blood, gazing into his eyes filled with hatred, my heart died completely. Perhaps I should never have come into this world at all. Why isn't she crying or making a fuss? Ji Sheng's voice, tinged with doubt, shattered my train of thought. Aning reached out and gently pulled me into her embrace. Her arms were slender, yet her embrace was exceptionally warm. "Are you feeling unwell?" She looked down at me, her eyes filled with a pure, genuine concern I had never seen before. Gubai stood on tiptoe, straining to lift a faded but polished old bell up to my eyes. He gave it a gentle shake. Ding-a-ling, the clear, melodious sound, like sunlight piercing through dark clouds, rippled crisply through the shabby earthen room. "No sickness," he mumbled anxiously. Pain fly away." At that moment, the care she had longed for in vain in her past life was unexpectedly found among these few children. In this one, feeling utterly aggrieved, I burst into tears with a loud wah. I didn't even know what exactly I was so aggrieved about. My crying immediately flustered Anying. Gubai shook the bell even more vigorously. Don't cry. Ji Xing turned and ran out, returning shortly after, panting heavily with a bowl of warm milk in hand. She must be hungry. After finishing the milk in the bowl, My body warmed up, and my senses gradually returned. Only then did I belatedly feel a wave of embarrassment. My soul was, after all, that of a 20-year-old, yet I had cried so uncontrollably in front of 3 children. It was truly a bit shameful, but they clearly didn't mind my outburst, only worrying about the next problem. What if she gets hungry again tonight? Ning gently patted my back, her brows furrowed. The milk earlier was something I asked the village chief's family for. Saying Gu-bai was fussing and wanted to drink it. Ji Xing uncomfortably turned his face away, guiltily lowering his head. Gu-bai, whose name had been mentioned, immediately put on a pitiful expression and complained with grievance, "Brother is mean." A deeper flush of embarrassment crossed Ji Xing's face. After a brief silence, Ning spoke hesitantly. "I heard someone say during the day that a family in the neighboring Apricot Blossom village keeps dairy cows." As her words fell, the earthen house fell into a deep silence. "I'll go." After a moment of silence, Ji Xing grabbed an old tin can and walked toward the door. "No way." My heart skipped a beat. In the countryside of the 1990s, if you were caught stealing, you could really be beaten to death. Someone like me, how could I be worth him taking such a risk for me? I was so anxious that I flailed my arms and legs, trying to stop him. "Little sister is playing with me." Gu-bai was drawn by my waving arms and happily leaned in, carefully touching my fingertips with his fingers. Ning also showed a hint of a smile. "See? She likes you." "I'm not playing, I'm trying to stop Ji Xing." I pushed Gu-bai's hand away, watching Ji Xing's retreating figure as he walked toward the door. I opened my mouth and burst into loud sobs. Perhaps only this way could I keep Ji Xing from leaving. Ning immediately picked me up and gently rocked me. Gu-bai, beside us, was so anxious he kept pacing in circles, shaking his precious bell until it jingled non-stop. But I paid no heed to their attempts to comfort me. My eyes remained fixed on that closed, dilapidated wooden door. "Don't go, Ji Xing, come back. I'm not worth you doing this." A profound sense of helplessness and panic seized me, and I wept uncontrollably. "Not worth it. Someone like me isn't worth it." The room was as cold as an ice cellar, and Ning held me tightly in her arms, her eyes fixed on that broken wooden door just like mine. The frantic, chaotic heartbeat in my chest pounded against my ears. One thump after another. Even the usually rowdy Gu-bai was curled up quietly by the edge of the Kong, his big eyes unblinking as he stared at the door. Memories from my past life linger like ghosts, mocking me in my mind, telling me I am unworthy of love. In the Chen family, I was the worthless burden. While my sister wore new clothes and ate candy, I was hauling manure. When my sister celebrated her birthday, I lay shivering with a high fever in the woodshed, ignored by all. When my sister skipped school, I was the one who got beaten. When I first got my period, I was terrified and didn't know what to do. My mother only glanced at me with disgust and said, "You filthy thing, get out to the woodshed, don't dirty my floor." Under the light, the cold edge of the scissors glided across my face and arms. In the Jing family, my mother was sometimes lucid, sometimes deranged. Jingzhe would throw me into her room again and again, locking the door behind me. Under the light, she would trace the scissors across my face and arms, murmuring, "Cece, look, mommy is avenging you, will you forgive me?" And Jingzhe, those eyes filled with hatred always fixed on me, "Why aren't you dead yet?" After getting drunk, he would rush into where I lived, fists and feet raining down like a storm. "Just die. Why did you have to come back? Give my Cece back to me." It seems I have always been suffering in different places, never truly loved by anyone, living cautiously, yet always in the wrong. It seems I was born a mistake, destined to rot like garbage in an unknown corner. But now, for my sake, Ji Xing, every second of time feels like a slow, torturous death. The distant barking of dogs, the mournful howl of the night wind, each makes me tremble all over. If something happens to him, if he gets caught because of me stealing, if he doesn't come back, the thought chilled me to the bone, making my very soul tremble. An unprecedented surge of intense hatred suddenly welled up, not directed at the Chen family or the Jing family, nor at fate itself. I hate myself for not freezing to death under the bridge today. Ji Xing has returned safely, but what about next time? I guess they don't have parents. Otherwise, how could 3 half-grown children live so miserably, looking sallow and emaciated, struggling to survive in a drafty earthen house? Compared to them, I am fortunate. At least, in the Chen and Jing families, they didn't deliberately starve or mistreat me. In the middle of the night, when Ning carefully brought the warmed milk to my lips, I tightly shut my mouth, refusing to drink. Someone like Me isn't worth Ji Xing risking his life for. Seeing that I stubbornly refused to drink, all three of them grew anxious. Why won't she eat? Is she sick? Ji Xing pressed the back of his hand to my forehead, his voice filled with worry. Gu Bai was so anxious that he kept stomping his feet beside me, piling his most treasured bell and little stones all around me, trying to cheer me up. Ning looked at me, her clear eyes slowly filling with tears. She picked me up and held me tightly in her arms. Warm teardrops falling one by one on my face, so hot they almost burned my skin. Don't cry, it's not worth it. I wanted to reach out and wipe away her tears, but my flailing arms were beyond my control, and all I could manage were incoherent, sounds. Ning looked into my eyes, which were filled with a sorrow that seemed far beyond my years. From my resistant gaze, she seemed to have understood something more. Choking back tears, she let out a soft sigh. Little one, have you found out? Found out that you were abandoned, and that's why you're so despairing, refusing to even eat? Is that it? My heart jolted violently. She held me even tighter, her cheek pressed against my forehead, her tears soaking through my swaddling clothes. She continued speaking, as if talking to me, yet also as if speaking to her former self. Little one, it's not easy to come into this world. Those words were like a beam of light, instantly cleaving through all the gloom of my past and present life. Don't ruin yourself for those who don't love you, she continued, each word heavy with tears, striking deep into my heart. If they don't love you, there will be others who will. I was also abandoned by my parents. They left me at the orphanage gate and never came back. Her voice trembled with tears, yet she struggled to keep it steady. And Gu Bai, he was left by the roadside too, brother Ji Xing. He also has no parents anymore. We all know what it feels like to be thrown away. It's so cold, so terrifying. As she spoke, she smiled. See, I have Ji Xing and Gu Bai who love me, and now I have you too. We found you, so we're family now. We won't abandon you, never ever. Don't leave us, okay? Your life matters to us, so very much. From that day on, I started drinking milk eagerly, wanting to grow up quickly. Ji Xing became my father, and Ning became my mother, and Gu Bai insisted on being my little dad. I never understood why they were so determined to be my parents. It wasn't until much later that Ning told me, with a father and mother, it feels like a real home. The earthen house was the last memory Ji Xing's parents left him. 3 half-grown children did everything they could to raise me. Their daughter, Ji Xing, would take Gu Bai out before dawn, carrying a burlap sack, and return in the evening with plastic bottles and cardboard boxes. Gu Bai couldn't tell what was valuable, always picking up pretty stones as if they were treasures, and Ji Xing never said a word about it. Late at night, Ji Xing would still sneak into Apricot Blossom Village to steal milk, taking only a small half-jar each time, never greedy for more. He said that way, the owners wouldn't easily notice, and even if they did, they'd just think the livestock were producing less milk. The next day, he would walk another 5 miles to Green Mountain Town to steal goat's milk, and Ning would walk 3 miles, slipping into the newly built upscale neighborhood in town. Every time she returned, she'd bring back lots of delicious food, but what she brought most often was yarn and fabric. Under the kerosene lamp, she would unravel those colorful skeins of yarn, smooth them out, and stitch by stitch, knit them into the unique little sweaters and hats I wore. Gu Bai would always bring toys from the supermarket, just to make me laugh when I cried. The love I had never received, they gave to me. When I turned one and could wobble along the wall, the thing I feared most still happened. That night, Ji Xing returned very late. The door was pushed open, and he swayed in the darkness of the doorway, immediately handing the still warm jar of goat's milk to Ning. Ning numbly took it, for Ji Xing had never let anyone else heat the milk and feed me before. He toppled straight forward, crashing heavily to the ground. We were all terrified. Ning rushed over and cradled him in her arms. Moonlight streamed in, and only then did we see that his face was covered in dried, blackened bloodstains, with a gruesome, gaping wound on his temple. Ning's face instantly drained of all color. She and Gu Bai frantically dragged Ji Xing onto the Kong. She dipped a scrap of cloth in cold water and gently wiped the blood from his face. Then she rushed out, plucked a few herbs she recognized, chewed them in her mouth, mixed them with her tears, and applied the paste to his wounds, tightly wrapping them with strips torn from old clothes. But by the dead of night, Ji Xing still developed a high fever, his body burning hot, muttering incoherent nonsense in his delirium. Mom, Dad, don't leave, don't abandon. Xing Xing. Tears streamed down her temples without end. Ning touched his burning forehead, gritted her teeth, and rushed into the night. Not long after, she returned with the village chief, an old man, holding a kerosene lamp. He stooped as he entered the dilapidated earthen house. When he saw Jisheng lying unconscious on the kong, his head covered in blood, he let out a deep sigh, filled with helplessness and pity. What a sin! Without asking further questions, he struggled to carry Jisheng, who was much taller than him, on his back, and slowly disappeared into the night. That night, Enying dug her nails into her palms, her thumb torn and bleeding without her even realizing it. Gubai held me tightly and sat down beside her. In that suffocatingly long night, Enying, pieced together his story through choked sobs. He had parents who loved him dearly. But when he was 9, they died in an accident. Relatives passed him around like a hot potato, none willing to take on this burden. Jisheng then clutched his parents' photo, staying alone in this crumbling old house, relying on the kindness of neighbors, and grew up resiliently. The next afternoon, Grandpa the village chief finally carried Jisheng back. Jisheng's head was wrapped in clean gauze, his face deathly pale. He was conscious but unusually weak. It was at this moment that Grandpa the village chief finally noticed my presence. His gaze shifted between me and the 3 children, his brow furrowing tighter and tighter. Where did this baby come from? His voice carried an unquestionable authority. Found her. Enying's voice was as soft as a mosquito's hum. The village chief looked at them, then at their destitute surroundings, his tone growing heavy. You're still children yourselves. How can you possibly raise a nursing baby? Listen to me. Take her to the police station. Let the government find her a good home. It's for the best for all of you. Enying and Jisheng lowered their heads, remaining silent. I looked at Jisheng, whose head was still wrapped in blood-stained bandages, at Enying, who was tightly clutching the hem of her clothes, and at Gubai, who was at a loss. I couldn't become a burden to them, couldn't let Jisheng take risks for me again. I had to leave. With all my strength, I broke free from Gubai's embrace, staggered to stand before the village chief, raised my head, and clearly, forcefully, uttered the most sincere yet most insincere words of this life, and of both lifetimes. Send me away. Enying suddenly raised her head, looking at me in disbelief as tears instantly welled up in her eyes. I avoided her gaze, pointed at the door, and repeated even more firmly, go. In the end, I still left with Grandpa the village chief and was sent to the town's welfare home. The moment the door closed, I heard Gubai's hoarse cry, Nan Nan, don't you want your little daddy anymore? Hearing Enying's suppressed sobs and the dull thud of Jisheng's fist hitting the earthen wall. Life at the orphanage was monotonous, neither good nor bad, but at night, no one would ever again make me laugh with a stolen bell, nor would anyone carefully feed warm milk to my lips. Yet my 3 parents never forgot me for a single day. They came every day. In the southeast corner of the welfare home stands a century-old locust tree. Enying sneaked in to see me, with Jisheng keeping watch nearby. Enying came almost every day, sometimes bringing a small piece of secretly hidden biscuit, sometimes a flattened wildflower. She would quickly tell me what brother Jisheng had done today, or what foolish thing Gubai had said, but more often than not, she would anxiously press on, asking, all right, now, have any uncles in suits and ties come to see you here? Did the headmistress ever ask you to go to the office alone to meet those uncles? Her questions carried a kind of anxiety and fear that I couldn't understand. Her questions left me puzzled. It wasn't until that day that the answer was revealed in the most brutal way. It was an afternoon, and Enying came to see me as usual. Just then, a middle-aged man dressed in an expensive suit, with an elegant and scholarly demeanor, was walking out of the office building accompanied by the dean. As if inspecting something, Enying's gaze inadvertently swept over the man. She froze in place, her face instantly turning as pale as paper. Her entire body trembled uncontrollably, and a fierce hatred flashed in her eyes, but it lasted only a moment before being overwhelmed by immense fear. She abruptly turned around, pressing me tightly into her embrace, using her slender back to shield me from the man's line of sight. I could clearly feel her unease, her fear. In that moment, I understood. Her previous strange questions stemmed from her own trauma. That seemingly refined man must have deeply hurt her before, but I still underestimated human nature. When the man came again, it was already late at night. The commotion of the director carrying little Flower from the bed next to mine woke me up. As if possessed, I quietly followed on bare feet. The office window wasn't shut tight. I stood on tiptoe and peered through the crack, witnessing a scene that froze my blood. Suddenly, I remembered Enying's deathly pale face and her uncontrollable trembling. I understood everything now. What she had endured was this very hell. At that moment, the urge to kill grew wildly in my heart like weeds. I had to send him to hell. From that day on, I kept myself neat and tidy, playing quietly where he could see me. I smiled sweetly at everyone. Sure enough, he took a liking to me. That evening, I quietly returned to the old house and placed the note I had prepared beforehand on the most conspicuous spot on the table. That night, the director came as expected. She picked me up and gently soothed me. I thought we were still heading to that office. It wasn't until she placed me in the back seat of an unfamiliar car that my heart suddenly sank. We were changing locations. A wave of immense fear washed over me, and I almost instinctively wanted to open my eyes to end this dangerous plan. Just then, Annie's voice rang out clearly in my mind. Sweetie, so amazing, you've already learned to roll over. Sweetie, so incredible, you've already learned to crawl. Sweetie, come try on the clothes mommy made for you, see if they fit. Those warm memories flashed by, finally settling on her eyes, which were clouded with fear. My restless heart miraculously grew calm. Perhaps the reason heaven gave me a second chance at life was so I could meet them. Now I have obtained the warmth I have long yearned for. Today, even if I were to die because of it, that is precisely the most important value and the ultimate meaning of this life of mine. I was placed on a soft bed, the fine texture of the fabric sending a chill down my spine. Not long after, the man walked in, carrying with him a nauseating scent. His fingers were icy cold, like an unexpected frost on a winter night. So sweet, he began to undo the buttons on my collar. I suddenly opened my eyes, feigning confusion and fear. Uncle, who are you? Where's matron? How did I end up here? The man paused, then forced a gentle, refined smile. Don't be afraid, little one, it was your matron who sent you here, so uncle can take good care of you tonight. While he was distracted by his own words, I quietly shifted backward. Why did Mother Superior send me here? I continued to play the part of the innocent. Because you're the most obedient, the best behaved. He leaned in, his breath hitting my face. Uncle will reward you. A chill shot from the soles of my feet to the top of my head. I forced down the rising nausea, screaming in my mind, Aning, Ji Sheng, hurry up and get here. Uncle, I said cautiously, looking at him. I want to go back now. Is that okay? No, you can't. His smile turned cold, a flicker of impatience flashing in his eyes. Seeing the growing impatience in his gaze, I thought quickly and pointed to the light switch. Uncle, let's turn off the lights and play hide and seek. If you can catch me in the dark, I'll do whatever you say. The man's eyes suddenly lit up. Really, really, I nodded emphatically. Smack, the lights went out, darkness devouring everything. Using my petite frame, I dodged past the wardrobe, rolled under the bed, and hid behind the curtains. The man fumbled clumsily in the dark, his breathing growing heavier. Always just missing me. Didn't expect you to be such a clever little thing. His voice carried the irritation of being toyed with. Patience completely gone. Too bad uncle isn't in the mood to play with you anymore. Smack, the lights suddenly blazed on. Under the glaring light, I was curled up behind the huge flower pot on the balcony, with nowhere to hide. Little girl, what are you hiding from? He licked his lips. Be a good girl, tell me what you want and uncle will buy it for you. While his words were coaxing, his hands were already moving. He turned and walked to the wardrobe, starting to rummage through it. Found you. He slammed the wardrobe door shut and looked under the bed. I shuddered in fear. Not here, not under the bed. His footsteps began to circle the room. Where could you be hiding? Come out on your own, little girl. His voice carried the playful taunt of a cat toying with a mouse, along with an unmistakable hint of threat. If I have to drag you out myself, I clamped my hand tightly over my mouth, holding my breath, my heart pounding wildly in my chest. The footsteps stopped. Finally found you. A shadow loomed over me. He bent down, that disgusting face appearing before my eyes, wearing a triumphant smile. The next second, the world spun. His movements held no trace of tenderness. After the dizzying sensation of weightlessness, my back sank into the soft bedding. So tempting. His eyes were murky and feverish, his breath hot on my face. I can hardly wait to enjoy you. Then his tone shifted, laced with a cruel excitement. But, to punish you for your earlier cleverness, uncle needs to teach you a proper lesson first. He yanked me, pulling a long, slender leather whip from the bedside drawer. He took 2 steps back, his gaze locking onto me like a hunter admiring his prey, his voice carrying a deliberately suppressed excitement. Run. I turned and fled, but there was nowhere to hide in the cramped space. Smack, a sharp crack. The whip tore through the air and landed heavily on my back. A searing, intense pain exploded instantly, and I collapsed to the ground. Too hurt to even muster the strength to get up, he strolled over unhurriedly, crouched down, and gazed almost appreciatively at my body, curled up in agony. "You are the bravest little girl I have ever seen." His voice was low, carrying a perverse sense of satisfaction. "The more you resist, the more it excites me." Click, the soft sound of a metal buckle snapping open. My heart sank, and I decided to throw myself against the corner of the bed. At that critical moment, bang, the door was violently smashed open from the outside with tremendous force, splinters flying everywhere. "Don't move, police, Nan Nan," and Ying's heart-wrenching cries echoed as she rushed in, disregarding everything, shielding me with her trembling body. Following closely behind, Ji Sheng, his eyes bloodshot, silently removed his own outer garment and swiftly wrapped it tightly around my nearly naked form. Then, he turned around abruptly. Without a moment's hesitation, Ji Sheng's fist, fueled by rage, struck the man who had just been so arrogant, one blow after another, landing with brutal force. Only the man's screams remained in the room. To better take care of me, Ji Sheng, Aning, and Gu Bai found a way to enter the same welfare home as me. On the day I got into university, Ji Sheng's gaming company released an indie game called Under the Bridge. Players control a tiny point of light, searching for companions in the cold ruins to build a shelter from the wind and rain. The game's description had only one line: "For all those who gave me light and family in the darkness." Aning established her own clothing brand, named New Life, a name she chose herself. The brand's most iconic feature is a handwritten phrase embroidered on the inner lining of every garment: "You are precious, and you deserve to be loved." The first models she used were children from the welfare home, abandoned, yet with eyes as bright as stars. What surprised me the most was Gu Bai. He became a painter. He no longer needed to steal colored paper and stones, for he now possessed an entire ocean of colors. In his paintings, there were always four small, intertwined figures. At the age of 23, a painting titled Rebirth shook the art world. The canvas bore no specific faces, only the silhouettes of four children huddled closely together. Behind them lay the shattered bridge arch and the harsh winter, yet beneath their feet bloomed vibrant sunflowers, stretching all the way to the horizon. The painting was auctioned off for 15 million to an anonymous collector. During an interview, Gu Bai simply held the microphone, speaking earnestly and slowly: "Nan Nan, brother, sister, and home, time has finally brewed the faint light we once stole into a sky full of stars. This spring, Ji Sheng and Aning are getting married." The invitation was hand-drawn by Gu Bai, depicting Ji Sheng and Aning embracing under the sun, their hair turning from black to white. On the eve of the wedding, the four of us returned to the old house. Ji Sheng held Ying's hand tightly, while Gu Bai, just like in our childhood, held my hand. Ying looked at us, her eyes glistening with tears, yet she smiled with boundless happiness. "Little one, look, we've truly built ourselves a home, a very, very big home." I took out the crumpled note from my bag, the one I had kept for many years. It was the final letter I left on the old house's stove back when I decided to sacrifice myself. "If I die, please live on." With a smile, under everyone's astonished gaze, I gently tore it to pieces and scattered it into the wind. I never expected that, in this second chance at life, I would still cross paths with Zhengzhe on the tree-lined avenue of Harbin University. When Zhengzhe saw me, his pupils suddenly contracted, and a flicker of panic flashed in his eyes. I acted as if I hadn't seen him, walking straight past him, yet a trace of doubt crossed my mind. I remember clearly that in my past life, Zhengzhe's scores were nowhere near enough for Harbin University. He only made it to Nanjing University. Why has his path changed in this life? I didn't want to dwell on it. After all, the school is so big, it's hard to run into each other. But that very afternoon, Zhengzhe blocked my way. "Zheng Hao," he said in a gloomy tone, with his usual commanding voice, "you'd better stay away from Shishi, or else what?" A cold, sharp voice rang out from behind him. Ji Sheng strode over to stand by my side in just a few steps. Now tall and upright, his steady presence instantly overshadowed Zhengzhe's imposing manner. I immediately wrapped my arm around his affectionately and called out happily, "Brother, we're all grown up now. I'd much rather not call them Mom and Dad." How embarrassing would that be, hearing that, brother, Zhengzhe instinctively responded, only to realize I wasn't calling him at all. His brow furrowed tightly. "What did you just call him?" I rolled my eyes at him, grabbed Ji Sheng's arm, and turned to leave, casually tossing out 4 words, "What's it to you?" After walking a few steps, Ji Sheng asked quietly, "Do you know him?" "No," I pouted, "probably just a lunatic." he came over right away and warned me to stay away from some she or something, completely ridiculous. After that, Zheng just seemed to haunt me like a lingering ghost, every time he heard me call Ji Sheng or goodbye, brother. His brows would furrow so tightly they could crush a fly, his gaze complex and perplexing. Finally, she couldn't sit still any longer. She stopped me downstairs at the dormitory, her tone spoiled and barbed with sarcasm. I listened quietly, and then, amidst the gasps rising and falling around us, I raised my hand and slapped her cleanly and decisively. Slap. The sound was crisp and sharp. You think your brother is like the Chinese yuan, loved by everyone? I shook my wrist and sneered. Zhengzhe rushed over upon hearing the news. Seeing the red mark on Zhengxi's face, he instantly flew into a rage. Zheng Hao, how can you still be so vicious? Without hesitation, I turned my hand and gave him a slap across the face too. First, my name is not Zheng Hao. Second, it was your sister who started the trouble with me. I glanced around, my gaze sweeping over every onlooker. Haven't you heard the saying, the one who provokes first is the one at fault? Anying. Ji Sheng, goodbye, and I had agreed to return to the old house for the new year. It was our real home. Unexpectedly, at the familiar alley entrance, we ran into the Zheng parents waiting there, dressed in expensive coats. They stood out starkly against the surrounding decay. Mr. Zheng stepped forward, his eyes filled with disdain, his tone dripping with condescension. Ji Yanan, we've confirmed it. You are our biological daughter. Come home with us, exactly the same as in my past life. Mrs. Zheng's eyes instantly reddened, her emotions surging as she moved to embrace me. My daughter. I took a step back, avoiding her touch. Her hand froze in mid-air, her face filled with shock and hurt. Oh, I responded, my voice devoid of any emotion. Father Zheng was extremely displeased with my reaction, his brows furrowed tightly. Ji Yanan, know your place. Returning to the Zheng family is the best choice for you. I laughed, a cold, undisguised sneer. Mr. Zheng, I heard your son, Zhengzhe, fell in love with your daughter, Zhengxi, and you even caught them in bed together, I said playfully, savoring their suddenly changed expressions. As a result, Zhengzhe confessed on the spot that Zhengxi isn't your biological daughter. You rushed to find me in such a hurry, didn't you? You just want to use me, the real heiress, to salvage your plummeting stocks and conveniently kick out that shameful fake heiress who brought disgrace upon you. My gaze swept over their pale, flustered faces, then turned firmly to Ji Sheng, Aning, and Gu Bai beside me. But why should I go back? I linked arms with Aning and Ji Sheng, and Gu Bai immediately pressed close to my side. Look, I have my own parents, I said with a smile, my voice clear and firm. Though they aren't much older than me, they've given me something you could never offer in a lifetime. With that, I shut the door on them. Later, I heard the Zheng family went completely bankrupt. Zhengxi stole all the core secrets of the Zheng group, sold them to competitors, absconded with the money, and vanished without a trace. One winter evening, just as I stepped out of Ji Sheng's company, I was stopped at the street corner by a haggard-looking man. He wore an old trench coat unsuitable for the season, his hair was disheveled, and his eyes were bloodshot. It was Zhengzhe. How? His voice was hoarse and dry, heavy with regret and pleading. I was wrong. I truly know I was wrong. I watched him quietly, this brother who had pushed me down the stairs in my past life and abandoned me in a bridge culvert in this one, now looking utterly wretched. How delightful. In my past life, I was a scoundrel, blinded by greed. I shouldn't have treated you that way. In this life, I shouldn't have abandoned you. He choked up as he spoke. Every day I regret having you. He reached out, trying to grab my sleeve, but I took a step back, my gaze cold. How, I beg you, give me a chance to make it up to you. He knelt down. I know I have nothing now, but in the future, Zhengzhe, I calmly interrupted him, I can never forgive you, but I don't hate you either. He stared at me in astonishment. You abandoned me under the bridge, wanting me to die, yet, I found a new life. I paused, my gaze sweeping over the dazzling streetlights, where Ji Sheng and Aning had lit up a home for me. From the moment Ji Sheng and the others took me in, I had a home. I looked at his face, etched with pain and regret, and finally said, I'm going home, they're waiting for me to eat. With that, I turned away from him and walked toward the opposite side of the street. There, Ji Sheng was waiting by the car, and Gu Bai was waving energetically at me from inside. After hearing the stories above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Looking forward to hearing from you. If you liked this story, don't forget to like it, share it, and subscribe to my channel. See You next time.